Daryl Recommends Podcast is a podcast recommending series and shouldn't be mistaken as a reviewing one. Opinions about each show are my own and should not reflect what each podcast has to offer. Content warnings aside, I believe if any recommendation in my series interests you, you should give it a chance, regardless of how I personally feel about the show.
In the year 2260, the Earth died, and the light of humanity went out. But then, someone found a light switch. Firma Limited offered humankind a new way forward aboard their specialist fabrication vessels. There was no more luxurious or available way to escape the coming catastrophe. When presented with our new forward-thinking proposition, the former populace of Earth almost unanimously volunteered themselves and their genetic legacies to be permanent citizen employees of Firma Limited. But wait, there's more! When Firma Limited encountered the intergalactic business community, we were able to pivot our modus operandi and offer our high-grade environmental fabrication technology to the galaxy's most desirable entities. Fast forward 900 years and we are still here and doing what we do best, making your dreams come true. Firma Limited. With us, you're on firm ground.
We follow planetary designer Trexel Geisman and his clone assistant David Seven as they design planets for clients at Firma. Between Trexel's drunken shenanigans, Hartro's managing, and Imogen's watchful AII, both Trexel and David need to get their act together before the two of them end up recycled. It's a good thing that they're both capable at their jobs, right? Right? Firma is an improv sci-fi comedy podcast that takes listener submissions and turns them into planet designs. Trexel and David work on creating the perfect planet for each of their clients. They're very rich clients. The whole show is 76 episodes and completely finished. Easy to listen to from beginning to end if you prefer shows that aren't continuously updating and you want something that's a good, decent size to listen to. So, if you are a fan of Rusty Quill, you've definitely heard of Ben Meredith and his brother Tim Meredith. And the two of them together are both hysterical and chaotic, and I think that Firma is a great representation of that, because this show I know I've described previous shows in the past, the Stench of Adventure, of just being bizarre and weird, but I feel like this is in the terms of podcasts, one of the ones that is peak bizarre and weird when it comes to off the rockers comedy. They play the two of them together as just an acting duo, play off of their own jokes and bits so well, especially since a majority of the show is improv. I'm pretty sure there's some scripted parts of it, but you could tell at least a bit in the beginning that a lot of this is just off their own whatever happening at the time of their recording. And I like the behind the scenes bits where they make jokes with each other and then they're just okay, well that's not good in the episode. And I just it's just overall the general vibe of Firma is just very much everything goes within reason, and I think that's really fun. They make up their own lore on the spot, their own characters on the spot, and I think it's just really funny. I mean, one of the characters' names is Agent 42069, which is one of the funny. It's such a childish joke, but I love it because he doesn't love a good 42069 joke. It's a great palate cleanser when it comes to wanting a comedy with a mystery and a plot. If you're somebody who goes into the podcast scene and you see a lot of horror podcasts, at least I typically do, and you want something that listen to that's in between all the nice, wonderful horror podcasts that exist out there, this is a really good one. And the story for how they got Travis McElroy to come on for an episode of the show makes me laugh because they talk about it in their season 3 finale Q&A. And I remember the exact friggin' thing because of Travis McElroy getting into the Magnus archives literally a couple weeks after I first started listening to it, and me being oh, hey, I'm not the only person I know who's just started listening to this. And I thought that was really funny. And just one of the things that is nice, especially if you want to get into a show that is 76 episodes long, is it's mostly David and Trexel and Hartro and Imogen. Those are the 4 characters that come up the most. There's other casts that come up, every once in a while, but they mostly focus on just those 4 characters. So if you're somebody who can't keep track of shows with a lot of characters, Hello from the Hollowoods or something like the Magnus Archives even, then this might be a good show for you if you're trying to keep track of who's who in the show. a lot of the characters they have come up, that they do have come up, only show up once, and some of the characters that are mentioned a lot might only show up once, or might just like only be mentioned through the show, but we don't actually meet them in person. So if that's something you're worried about with having to remember a bunch of names, you really don't have to unless they mention a character a lot. So that's a thing. But yeah, though, Ben and Tim Meredith are hysterical, and they're just, this whole show is just really great. And them having Imogen on just to play literally a character with her own name, just sitting there and making like snarky little remarks to things that David and Trexel say is great, especially when they play off of each other with that. It works so well. One of the things I do want to warn about, though, because this is a sci-fi comedy, but it does get very depressing. Like, I love David Seven, and he is a little ray of sunshine, but he is also like the most depressing character in the show, in my opinion. This show has a lot of like employee abuse, alcoholism, enslavement, and dehumanization. David Seven's a clone, and a lot of the characters who are not clones tend to treat him really shitty. So if that's something that you're not into when it comes to getting into a show like that, then I wouldn't recommend it. Like I said, David gets treated so horribly, but I love him, and he's great. We all love David Seven. I adore him so much. This show was also funny, at least for me personally, because this was the second Rusty Quill show I had listened to after the Magnus Archives. I had not listened to Rusty Quill Gaming yet, and I have to mention that because it was such a a big a switch and like associating a voice actor's voice with like Elias Bouchard and then going to David Seven and having that complete flip in character personality. It was just really fun. I love it when when a voice actor is so good that they can give me whiplash with their voice acting, and Ben Meredith is just really good at that. And just Tim Meredith is like it just in the show is just so chaotic. His character is chaotic. He's such a chaotic personality. I love it, and I feel like with a show like this, it's very like not surprising that the people who make the show are just as chaotic outside of their characters as they are inside their own show. And that's just great. This is a great show overall. If you really like improv comedy, if you want something funny to listen to, if you want something that like you're like, okay, how is this gonna give me laughs? Like, why is this show bizarre? And then it just comes out of left field with just some of the weirdest things that you would not expect the show to start out with. This is like that kind of show. It's so good. It is just so good. Overall, if you want a nice, good comedy podcast, I was like, it literally me thinking about, me when I was thinking about, for the recording for this show and sketching out the art that I'm drawing in this video, I was like sitting there thinking like, I gotta give this show a re-listen. I feel like it's still a little bit too soon. I like to give like some space after I give a show a listen before re-listening to it. I think the only exception was like Red Valley, but Red Valley's really short, so I get to get away with it a little bit. But I gotta give this show a re-listen myself soon, because I was sketching the art and I was like, man, God, Stellar Firma is just really good. It's a nice, good show. So if you want something that's finished, not super long, but not super short, and has a nice, simple cast that's easy to keep up with, this is the show for you. I highly recommend you check it out. I am going to be linking down to both Tim and Ben Meredith's Twitter accounts down below. And if they have any other websites that I could find going up there, I will link those as well, along with Rusty Quill's Patreon. Mostly because, one, they do have a sideshow for Stellar Firma on the Rusty Quill Patreon. I haven't gone listening to it because I'm not in the Patreon. I don't have the money to do that, as you could tell, because of my car problems. But if you want to go listen to that, if you enjoy Stellar Firma, after listening to this video, you go off to go listen to Stellar Firma, which I hope you will. And you want to go listen to that exists. I'll be linking their Patreon down below. And as always, as I ask every single video, if you have a podcast recommendation for something to listen to that I have not listened to yet, I have not recommended yet, I have never mentioned before, who knows? Maybe I haven't listened to it, and you might be like, oh, gotta make a video for this show soon. Or, I haven't listened to it yet, but since you recommended it, I might give that might be our next show. You never know. I have had people recommend me shows on this channel before, and that had jumped that show from my just being bookmarks to I'll listen to this when I want to listen to this, all the way to this is the very next show I listen to. It has happened before. It might be the show that you recommend next. You never know. I have a whole list of shows that I still have to get through to recommend, but I tend to listen to ones, I tend to make videos for ones that I just finished listening to, as soon as either if I don't have a script for my next video planned out, or after I finish my next video. So a lot of some of the shows I have recommended, like Idle Days, for example, I made that video as soon as I finished listening to Idle Days. So you never know. You never know. It could be your podcast. And as always, like I do in every single video, I will link my socials down below. You can go follow me on other websites. I'm thinking of opening up a Ko-fi soon. I should open a Ko-fi soon. So, yeah. Anyway, goodbye, and I will see you all later.